Yes. Welcome to Fun Zone episode 50. I cannot believe we're here. This is a huge moment. This is a celebration. And I cannot think of a better person to spend it with than our guest today. My name is Nordista. If this is your first time, welcome to Fun Zone. This is a show where I, Nordista, talk to my friends and artists, creatives, interesting people, inspiring people, people that I want to meet for the first time. Sometimes they're lifelong friends, and it all comes together here at the Fun Zone. And wow, we've had a really good run. These first 50 episodes have been just a total joy for me and have really been helping me through quarantine. Thank you for all your support. Um, if you do want to support Fun Zone in a very simple, easy, and free way, you can like this video on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and also, even on the apps you don't use, consider subscribing, like on Spotify or following or whatever it is, on Apple Podcasts as well. Do the circuit if you want to, if you want to support this and you want me to be able to keep growing this movement. So, cool. Without further ado, let's welcome Nathaniel Banks into the Fun Zone.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sound great. You look great.
Thank you.
What's up?
Do I want to be horizontal? I'm vertical right now, but you're horizontal.
That's a good point. You can do whatever you want. If you want to be horizontal, yeah, that looks good. Oh, that looks really good. That looks clean. Speaking of clean, you look very clean, and you shaved.
I did shave.
Oh my goodness.
I did. My punk rock days are over.
Man, you had a good run.
I'm just a normie now.
Well, you look really good. I just realized right before beginning to film this that this is episode 50. So you're here for the big 50.
I'm honored.
I'm honored too.
Dude, Busch Gardens.
Yes, dude, check out this sweatshirt. It says extinction is forever.
Did you get that thrifting?
I did. I got it thrifting, but I don't really understand because I thought Busch Gardens was like a theme park, like with roller coasters.
Yeah, we used to go there on the school band trip every year. It's what kept some of my friends convinced to stay in band, is that you get to go to Busch Gardens.
Oh, like in high school, you could get to go with all your friends to Busch Gardens?
Yeah.
Dude, that's cool. Did you play saxophone?
I did.
Wow, okay.
I did. I still have it. It's sitting over here, actually. Right there. Do you see it? There it is.
Yeah. I see it. I've heard you play saxophone. I think first at Space Prom 2, you like pulled it out and played something insane. I remember my mind was blown.
I'm trying to remember what I played.
I don't remember either.
But if you're doing an 80s set, there's bound to be some opportunities.
Yeah. For those watching, this is Nathaniel Banks of the band Arlie and other regard, perhaps.
Of Sylvan Park.
And for those watching on YouTube, you can see your beautiful living room. And Star Bagel.
Represent
Star Bagel, the best bagel in town. Actually, I just found out that there's a family in my neighborhood who makes bagels like in their house, and they drive around and will deliver them if you order them.
Oh, really?
Isn't that cool?
That is beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, they sell out. Like you have to, like I went on their website yesterday and they're sold out for the next like 2 weeks. So I guess you have to like really plan in advance for your bagel. But I thought that was pretty awesome.
You know, side hustles are really expanding these days. So respect.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, right. People are working more jobs than ever before. That's great. It's great to see people working. I
I don't
No.
even eat bagels, but I like Star Bagel for the I don't know. It feels like home to me.
Yeah. You don't eat bagels?
No,
Do you eat
I don't
bread?
feel. I mean, I eat bread when it's like given to me, but I won't ever like go out of my way to go and like purchase bread.
Yeah. Just trying to like cut carbs.
Um,
Not of
Not even really. I eat. Well, we've talked about my diet and enough probably,
um
but
the
it's a good deal of carb.
I remember the is he the owner, the when I went to Starbake with you, that the man who's just like very knowledgeable, he was like against, you were like, should I get this on a bagel? And he was like, why get the extra carbs? He's like, just get it on lettuce. And I thought that was
Oh
really
yeah, that was funny.
interesting. They didn't try to sell you on the bagel.
he's like he's like working at Star Bagel for like 20 years, and he's telling people to avoid carbs.
Yeah, right. That was funny. I haven't seen you in probably 3 weeks or maybe longer. I don't know. I guess since we walked to Kroger to get chocolate chips.
Oh yeah, yeah, we like really haven't seen each other that much. How have you been?
I'm doing all right. I think I'm doing better and worse probably than since I last saw you. Like I've been,
Better
there's
and
been some
worse.
moments that have been like really good, and then like literally within the same day, I'll have moments that are really bad, or I'll just feel like really defeated, or just like not really sure what I'm doing. Um, but the last 2 or 3
Yeah,
days have been really solid. I felt a lot more purpose. Um, yeah, how you doing?
you still doing the like? So you got your painting every day. You got uh workout P90X every
That's
day,
right. That's right. Yeah, I'm on
and
week 6 of P90X, which that's honestly been one of the most life giving things. It's also at 9:30 in the morning, so I have to wake up at like 8:45, which for a lot of people listening might seem easy, but I mean, I stay up till 2 or later consistently. So that's
still.
kind of it. Now I'm trying to get to where I can get, my goal is like 7 hours of sleep. So I try to be asleep at like 1:30. But I mean, that's like the earliest I've gone to bed and
Yeah.
forever. I mean, since like high school. So it's taken some adjusting, but I will say like getting like forcing having my two friends I
Wait,
work out with.
1:30? 1:30 is the earliest that you've gone to
Yeah.
bed since high school?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I never go to bed earlier than that. It's just how it, I don't know, but having those two friends hold me accountable, it's like I have to get up even though I don't want to. And then by the time I'm there stretching, I'm like, all right, let's start this day. So that's been really good for me, I think. Because most of quarantine I've just been so on my own schedule. Sometimes there's nothing to hold me accountable at all, you know.
Totally. Yeah, that's why I'm glad for my band. Like Adam gets up so early, so like even when I'm getting up at like 8 or 9, I feel like I'm behind. Like
Yeah.
because Adam's just been like grinding.
Wow.
um
What are y'all up to? Is the band, is that, if it's public info, what are y'all working on?
yeah, well, yeah, I mean public info, I'm like starting to lean towards uh telling the public more info. I'm kind of tired of the non-public
Whoa.
info mo that we've been on. So let it be known we are mixing our own record at this point. We've got the sessions.
Wow.
uh Lars has done a lot of great work on the mixes, but we needed to do a bunch more, so we got the sessions from him finally, and we have just been dealing with technical difficulties trying to get the sessions properly open. But then we're just going to finish mixing the record from Adam's house in the next, like, well, before the new year. And then because he's got like a full studio at this point over there. um and so yeah, I mean we've just been together pretty much all of quarantine, working on this record. So it's taken way too long, but like also not. It's taken the exact amount of time that it needed to take. It's just that
Mm,
I don't want I don't want future records to take this long, and they won't. There's no way that they will. But this one has taken a long time for a variety of reasons, and we're like finally wrapping it up. So
that's so exciting, dude.
yeah,
That's
it's very
awesome.
exciting. I'm ready to just go make another record, honestly.
Really? Wow. Because you've been working on this one for such a long time. You feel like you're like partly in cycle to like just begin something new. Like,
Yeah, I mean, all these songs I've written like over a year ago. So, like, um, it's a whole new stage of life with a whole new set of songs.
right.
Um, and I've like written a lot of them already. So, like, I feel like um, now that like Adam and Ryan and I have gotten into a production workflow, that I think that's a lot of like why this was a longer process, was just like us figuring out how to get into a workflow on production. So like now I feel like producing this next batch of songs that are like mostly written like will be a lot quicker and just like fun. So and cost a lot less because we can do it at Adams.
Yeah,
So
right. That's amazing. Do y'all ever? Adam does digital and also tape at his house, right? Doesn't he have a tape machine?
he just sold his tape machine. He like wasn't really using it.
Mm, I was gonna ask if you
But
had messed with that at all for like
do you
even like one track or something. I don't know. That'd be interesting.
have you been recording on tape these days? Have you been making new recordings?
I've been making recordings on Logic at home, but do have like 5 songs that are on tape that are not released that are just literally need the vocals and they'd I mean pretty much be done. So
Sick.
I like doing the tape thing, but I don't know, moving forward I don't really feel inclined to keep doing it or to not do it anymore. Like it's a nice process. It's cool to have the whole band like record together in a room. It's a cool and then last time, like on these newer songs, we recorded the guitars in the room where they could hear themselves in their headphones, but the amp was in a each amp was isolated in its own room with minimal bleed. So like there's not even as much of that pressure like, oh well, whatever we do here is permanent. You know what I mean? You can
Right.
always you could always just take out a guitar. So there's a little bit less pressure too, and it's a really fun workflow, at
Yeah.
least for like getting the bass and drums down and some couple guitars maybe too, or maybe a whirly or something.
So that's the thing, like how long does it take you to get a song done that way?
It's incredibly short. We did like 5 songs in maybe 6 hours.
5 songs in 6 hours. And you've been partly that's possible because you've been practicing and you've been playing shows together, right?
That is true. Yeah, they knew the songs from all of the songs pretty much from playing them over and over night after night. So the band is locked in.
Yeah. So that helps too. And I think that's like part of the approach that I want to take more next time, where this time it's been like produce the songs and then teach them to the band. Where it's like, and then a lot of what we're doing in the final stages of production is tweaking the energy flow so that it feels ultimately like what a live band would do to keep a show, to keep a track, like, a song exciting
Yeah,
all the way through and build the energy at the right moments. It's like if you'd gone on tour together, then you would have figured out all those kinks and like figured out all the places that you needed to build energy
right.
before going into the studio. So I think I'm leaning towards like wanting to work that way too, because it's more natural and like does the same stuff that we're trying to do more organically, I guess.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, but the flip side is that I will say that sometimes I wonder if we've played our songs so much. Like, I do think that the only way that we could have gotten some of these newer recordings to where we wanted them to is by playing them every night and seeing like how a crowd interacts with it, which you can't
Yeah.
really fake. But at the same time, sometimes I do wish that I could release a song that had no one's heard before, because I feel like well, I don't know though, but then maybe playing it live is kind of good promo, because then when people are like, oh, that song's out now, they're like extra excited if they've heard it a couple times. But I've always been attracted like a little bit of more surprise than I can offer, where people are hearing the song for the very first time when it drops. I think that's pretty cool. And I haven't obviously done that in a long, long time, because all of my songs I'll play before, because I'm always on tour and always performing. So
Right.
I don't know. I guess that's the other side of it that makes me want to. I don't know. It makes me feel conflicted about it.
Yeah. Well, now you can, because shows are not a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, right. That's true. I mean, a lot of the songs I've written now, obviously, I haven't performed. So, and maybe I could release them without performing them at all, especially if they're a little bit of a different genre. If they're not just like a full band, you know, rock quartet style.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, we got to finish the ones that we've been working on.
Ayo. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Maybe
We've
whenever.
already given away the surprise on Say Whoa,
That's
but
true.
or Juicy as we officially call it.
I guess there is one place now where people can find that if they want to, if they dig for it.
Is the video from that up?
I think it's those kind of videos are up on YouTube in
Oh,
perpetuity. Is
you
that the
mean just
word?
like people's handheld video? There's not like an official
I think there's an
video of
official.
Halloween.
Well, there's like I think there's like the official 2 hour whole production, all of the theater and everything from that night, from Halloween night.
Oh, really? Okay, wow, I didn't know that. That's embarrassing.
Yeah, all of your acting and
My
everything is.
terrible accent. Yeah.
We can take this part out of the episode if you want to not promote it.
Well, it's live, isn't it?
The show?
Are we live right now?
No, we're not live. I upload it to YouTube like immediately following, but
Oh,
it's not
great.
live. So it comes out like
Cut,
almost like it's live.
cut the whole thing. Start now.
Cut everything we've ever said. That's funny. I don't think I've ever cut anything on an episode, except I had one entire episode get not posted because the artist had like a crisis where like the whole Fun Zone was like super like rock star. Like he was like hanging out, like his drummer kept drumming. He's like, stop drumming. And like he was like hitting this bong and like smoking cigarettes and drinking like out of the bottle. And he said some crazy stuff. But I thought, I mean, this person, I won't reveal their name, but they are a person who's known for partying pretty hard. And, it's kind of the lifestyle that they represent in person on social media. And so I thought it was really good episode, but I respected what they said. They didn't feel like it was a good representation. So now
Fair.
it's just in the vault. But
Well, I think like for me, it's like I I am known for not partying, and I would like my reputation to be that I party super hard, which is why we need to cut the beginning of this podcast up to this point, and then I will start drinking and smoking right now, so that the rest of the podcast I can be represented as the party animal that I truly am.
dude, I heard that the Ramones like went to Stonehenge, and one of them just like didn't get out of the car because that was like how much of a punk he wanted to like represent himself as. Like he just like didn't get out to see Stonehenge. He just was like, I'm bored, and just stayed in the car just to be like a punk.
Like for anyone, or we're just who was watching?
I
Like
guess just
just for his own sake.
yeah, I guess just to tell the story, just be like, yeah, who cares? I went to Stonehenge, didn't see it, didn't get out of the car. There's a lot of stories about like Dylan, and I can't remember who his manager was, but like the different artists he would manage back in the 60s, and they would be like, it was very image like. I know there was one girl that like wasn't allowed to go outside because they didn't want her to get more tan, because they wanted her to have this like introverted look, like she like just sat inside and read all day. It's like wanted to keep her like pale.
Do you have any idea who?
It was, I think it was Peter, was it called Peter, Paul, and Mary? Is that what they're called?
Oh yeah,
I think that's who
really?
it was. Yeah. I thought that was interesting. I've never listened to them very much. Yeah. Peter, Paul, and Mary. Yeah, man.
Have you ever made any major life choices because of how you wanted to brand yourself?
Hmm. I don't know. I don't think so, but also I do definitely believe in telling a story that like can be like said easily. Like that's why I
Yeah,
like to do those tours where it's like 70 shows in 70 days because the whole tour, people are, everywhere you go, people are asking, "Oh, how long are you out here?" Like, "Oh, what are y'all doing?" And if you're like, "We're doing 70 shows in 70 days," people are like, "Did y'all hear that?" They immediately are like
right.
something that you
You're
can
gonna
just
want to like
say,
tell somebody. Yeah,
yeah, at a party. And like you hear that a lot where like there are certain stories in like pop culture, like music stories that you just hear all the time. Just like very simple
yeah,
anecdotes. So I do believe that if you can tell something in like one sentence, it can be pretty powerful, you know.
yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah, that's pretty interesting. What do you think? Like, do you have any one sentence stories for yourself? Like right now, if you were gonna put out a record?
Ooh, I don't know. I I feel like quarantine's had a lot of nuance. There's like not as much like, but that is, I mean, I do kind of think in those terms. Like that's why I like to do like the like paint. Like I was trying to like put out a painting every day, just like holding myself to like weird standards that like can be easily like uh can create an easy story. I was thinking about getting rid of all my clothes, like every single piece of clothing except for one, like just like jumpsuit or something, because I thought that would be like an interesting thing to do, not just for the story, but it's like a culmination of just like creating something, like creating a thing. And I just thought it'd be interesting if I just had no clothing except for one thing, and whenever I washed it, I just had like be in my underwear. So I just be like, well, I'm washing it.
That's pretty. I'm kind of into that. I would do that even if I wasn't like trying to be a public figure, just to
Yeah,
like do it.
yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, I guess yeah, and it's not totally external, but it is some culmination that is hard for me to define. I mean everything, not to go too far out, but so much of I feel like Nashville's culture and like our friends and a lot of the people around here. I mean, artistry is this weird combination for a lot of us of personal identity and job, you know, and
Yeah,
and your passion, and it's like all one thing. So it is kind of this weird thing where you don't clock out. You're always doing this thing that you like really are passionate about and are really personally attached to, and also is like your
no days off.
is yeah, no days off, and it's like your source of income perhaps. And maybe some people really separate it, but I mean pretty much everyone I know, there is no separation, because that's what makes their art like sincere, and I don't know,
Yeah,
that's what keeps them motivated.
yeah.
It's interesting. Do you know anyone who's like really separates their art from themselves in like a or their persona in like a really evident way?
That's what I'm thinking about. Like, I don't know anyone personally.
Right.
I know, obviously, like somebody like Lana Del Rey or whatever. Like Lizzie Grant is like a separate entity, or like even like Lady Gaga, even though recently she's kind of now decided that she doesn't want to make that distinction anymore, right? Like she's kind of
Mm,
decided she doesn't want to have the alter ego thing. She wants to like be herself in like the new stuff that she's making,
yeah.
right?
Right.
But for a while she like very much had this separation between herself as a person and Lady Gaga as the performer.
Right.
Um but like, and I've like thought about that because I don't know, like I guess like yeah, like as a person you want to be super nuanced for me, it's like I hate the idea of being pigeonholed in any possible way.
Right.
But for and there's like the nuance thing combined with the fact that, or like, it, that like, yeah, you want an easy story to tell. It's like something really simple that people can latch onto. And then also there's like the mystery thing, the mystique of like, you know, Lady Gaga, where she feels, or Lana Del Rey or whoever, where they feel like a larger than life kind of, where it's like if I was just going around being like um, acting larger than life as like me the person, that would just feel like super ego inflated, like
Right.
self-aggrandized. But if it was like separate entity, like the artist, which is like this other thing, then it could give more powerful meaning to the music without it like being like, I'm gonna go hang out with my friends and they all think that I think I'm like better than everyone, and like,
Yeah.
it's
Right.
like divine being or whatever. you know
Yeah. Totally. Yes. I that. Yeah. I find that to be. I mean, it's a great point. I think about that a lot. I mean, people like Anton Newcomb of the Brian Jonestown Massacre. It's like one of my heroes, and I think he. I mean, he legitimately has a ton of interpersonal and relational conflict because I think the person he really is just genuinely has this just enraged ego, and it is completely who he is. But it's
yeah,
not. But I always think about that because I think the there's something really attractive about how passionate he is and how like much he cares about his art and fights for it. But then the fact that it's like just actually just a part of him seems to like ruin all of his relationships and stuff. I don't. It's really
yeah,
interesting. I don't know. It's like it that in that film. There's the other band, the Dandy Warhols, and Courtney Taylor, their front man and like lead, um, and the songwriter of the group. Everyone in his band is like Courtney isn't willing to go where Anton's willing to go. You know, like he wants to, but he can't. And I always thought that was really interesting. It was like he couldn't, like they saw it like Courtney was not willing to like lose touch or something. I don't know. I just thought that was really
what do you mean? So say that again.
like Courtney's band felt like Courtney wanted to be this like genius, but he wasn't willing. But to them, they saw even his own band saw Anton as more of a genius, and they were like, Courtney's not willing to let himself go to the places it would require him to go to be like Anton.
which
Like
is what which is what places?
I guess just like they're saying that to be like a brilliant artist, you have to be willing to like go to I don't know a different place, like a different dimension. I'm not saying I necessarily agree with that, but I just thought it was interesting that that's kind of how all the people in that group in both projects seem to feel. I obviously don't know. I'd like to think that there's like a healthy way that you can get to your best self, you know, that isn't aligned with like hurting people, though.
Yeah, I definitely um want to believe that, and I do believe it, although I wish I can't say that I have like personal relationships with anyone who is like a legendary great artist genius who is like, I mean, I probably do, knowing uh I probably do have people that will go on to become those, but
Yeah.
at least not one who's already established
Right.
um as such. So I don't know, but I think the age, I just have this thought the other day that like the age of these like tortured, like fucked up genius artists is like kind of got to be coming to an end,
Hmm.
thanks to like the sort of wokeness of this generation, where it's like Shia LaBeouf, for example. Like we all like to, like, I don't know, I love to think of Shia LaBeouf as this like he's like so out there and like this wacko like artistic genius that it is like, you know, misunderstood and whatever, but he goes against the grain and like doesn't give a fuck what anybody thinks. And then it's like it comes out, oh yeah, he's like physically abusive to his girlfriend and he's getting sued. Like,
Wow, I didn't hear that.
oh, you didn't see that?
Is that a recent thing?
Yeah, very recent.
Oh man.
Um FK Twigs, they were in like a relationship that I mean, I guess it's not proven, but like
Right.
it seemed like pretty heavy. Like I did not seem like she was making it up.
Right.
And I just feel like there's been such a string of stuff like that where these people that are kind of like fantasized as like, oh yeah, they're so like mentally fucked up and like emotionally fucked up, but that's what makes them the great artists that they are. And then it's like inevitably that comes out in their personal relationships in like often sexual ways that are just like very not okay. And our like generation is like aware enough to like
Yeah.
spot that and be like, no, that's not okay. That's like, just because you're mentally emotionally fucked up doesn't mean that you can treat people this way. And like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, like I feel like the previous generation, like literally I was watching a video the other day of David Lynch being like, yeah, I would never go to therapy. That would like mess up my art. And like I think
Whoa.
our generation is like, like you need to
Right.
go to therapy. Like
Yeah. That's interesting. I heard Kanye though say a pretty similar thing on Rogan. I mean, or that's kind of just his whole thing about not taking like his medications to because he feels like it's restricting him. I know that I don't know if that's different or the same, but
I would draw the distinction,
yeah.
but also I can't really speak for like I can't speak for Kanye's experience
Yeah.
or for like people that have more severe conditions where, you know, they probably should be on medication. But
Right.
I, if I had to speculate, like, you know, if Kanye had a good therapist in his life who he trusted, who's like a good role model, and he actually like took them seriously, and he probably would not need. I would go so far as to say he might not need medication and would make better art.
Right.
Um, but I can't. I don't know that. I don't know that with certainty. But
Yeah.
I know that I have gone and like found a good therapist for the first time in my life, and like been seeing him for like 3 months, 4 months now, and I feel like already creatively, like I haven't even like really talked to you, Freeze, since like having some sort of breakthroughs with this, but like
Cool.
I think, I don't know, it's like I just am really over the idea that like, you know, being neurotic and just like mentally suffering is good for the art.
Interesting. Yeah. Um, I read this book called Culture Care that I might talked about before by this like Japanese painter that really was like formative for me. And I thought his idea of artistry was a little bit more exciting, where he called artists, he used this word, it was like, I don't even know what it was, but it meant like border stalker. And he said that artists are like people that walk along the borders of like culture and, you know, more like consciously and like an aware way, just like they're always like kind of walking around on the edges and like creating and changing, like shaping culture and tending to it like a garden. Um, and like it's like this like thing that you take care of and like for future generations. It's like this thing that you just continue to like shape and take care of. And
Yeah,
I really like
I
that
like that. I
of it
like
just
that a
being
lot.
something that you like that's bigger than you, and like, yeah, like the more stable, or like just the more you can like be healthy and like do your best work. Like it also, like my hero being like Brian Wilson, it didn't do him any good to like he will say that in interviews, like he did go through some like different mental illness, and also like experimented pretty heavily with like drugs and stuff. And
Right.
he, you know, his art, like he did push himself and made like the Smile sessions are really, really interesting. But then like following that, he really just like fell out. Like he lost like so much of his life to just like being bedridden, which was for other reasons as well. But just like, I don't think that not taking care of himself helped him make better art or like made him more interesting.
No.
It just made him suffer for like decades.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, like watching all these interviews with Paul McCartney when I was getting ready for that Halloween thing, it made me very encouraged to see someone who like I consider to be one of the greats who really transitioned healthily
Hmm.
from like his young pop stardom into like respected great songwriter, and like now into old age, and like he didn't go crazy with drugs, he didn't like lose his mind and like torture himself mentally, and he didn't like sexually like abuse people,
Right.
and like you know and he seems really happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like uh same with like the Led Zeppelin guys.
Hmm.
Like Jimmy Page seems like very like he's got a very healthy like approach to life.
Interesting. I don't know much about them, but that is cool. I know they have made it a long career of cool music, and definitely with Paul McCartney, I've watched him more, but or just followed his career across decades, retrospectively.
Yeah,
I can definitely see
but
that.
I'm interested in this culture gardening or culture guarding or
Oh,
wait,
oh.
border guarding, culture gardening.
So the book is called Culture Care, and he says that he calls artists border stalkers.
Border
Um,
stalkers.
yeah, he says that artists like walk alongside the borders of like different cultures, and and then he also, most of the book is just talking about gardening, or like equating your artistry to gardening. That's why he calls it culture care. It's like about caring for the culture, like in this like, yeah, in that sense. It's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty cool. What do you think about what do you think about Nashville as like a cultural garden?
Whoa. um. Well, I don't know. My initial thought is that I think the tools it takes to garden are getting too expensive. I think it's kind of sad that I feel like a lot of artists can't make a living in Nashville. Um, if rent keeps going up, you can't be Music City if like musicians can't live here. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I think that's a problem for at least that I see. Um, I think people here are really accepting of each other. At least, I mean, maybe I'm naive, but I think that people here really genuinely like and support each other. Um, I think maybe could be more creation going on, which could, I mean, obviously now in particular is tough, but for all of my time here, I think like gigs or like shows are collaborative to some extent, but it's like it's a pretty small form of collaboration to just like do something and have somebody else set up on the same stage and like you are hosting like a joint event, but I don't know. But maybe, I mean, there's also a ton of different worlds in Nashville that I'm probably not even aware of or familiar with, but it does seem like at least a pretty. It seems a little isolating. Like I think people kind of have their artistic journey that they are taking ultimately independently, and that's coming from a person who obviously believes a lot in community and wants there to be community. But I don't know. I think sometimes I see other cities where the DIY culture doesn't have as much. A lot of the bands don't have as many aspirations. Is actually being kind of a benefit to the community itself because when you have people who are like in their like 30s and they're like running the DIY venue, or they're like you have people who are like of all ages who are like caring about a community and it's got its own bands that are like or iconic in the scene and um there's a little bit more like there's more opportunity for people to like feel this like community within. Whereas I feel like a lot of bands in Nashville are created to succeed. And so that can make it harder for that community to continue to thrive because anytime anyone gets hot, they leave, and
Mm.
maybe they continue living here, but they don't, they're not going to keep playing gigs or like, and I guess I'll say this too before I finish is that there are other ways to care for the community. And I think a band like Okie Dokie does a really cool thing with how they collaborate and like have collaborated with like you and other people. And I also think like on an even bigger scale, like Paramore seem to do like some pretty cool, um, like different things within the community. It's like that they do what they can. It's not like they can come play a show, but they held an event that I remember a lot of like my friends played at once. That was cool. And, like we're like art vendors at and different
Is
photographers.
that the Art and Friends thing, or is that something else?
Yeah, art and friends.
Yeah,
And
cool.
then also just like working with like photographers and different people in town, like fashion people. I've just seen them collaborate a lot locally, which is cool. Like that really lifts the whole scene in a really amazing way. So I guess
Yeah,
that's my thoughts.
yeah. So you're saying like a DIY scene where people aren't trying to break out of the scene could be more communal in certain ways because it's not just that people don't just break out, they break out and then they leave. Like, I guess whereas there might be ways that people could break out, quote unquote, and then stick around and get back to the scene. I mean, I feel like people talk about that and like I can't really like speak in too much detail about this. Like I would be interested in hearing other perspectives, but like I feel like hip hop culture has like a history of like sticking to your roots for people that like blow up,
Mm,
and like always giving back to the scene and like never forgetting where you came from and all that. Like
right.
I wonder like because I feel like there's a lot of ambition in that culture, like arguably a lot more ambition to
Right.
break out than like the Nashville DIY scene, like as compared to like um I don't know, like Inglewood, California, or like something like that. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I don't know. Like I think well, it's hard to even talk about the scene now and like culture in Nashville now because it's so much different in a pandemic. Like
Right.
I feel like anything that I'm trying to say about the Nashville scene is like back in like 2019.
Back in the last decade.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's
um,
true. That's true. Yeah.
but it's interesting. I still like this garden metaphor of like I don't know. I wonder what the weeds are and what the sunlight and water are.
Yeah, right.
Like
Hmm.
Nashville is like the weeds are the bachelorette parties. Gotta get those out of here.
Yeah, and I will say, like, to counter my own point, like, having people in a community and a scene that do have like really high aspirations and a lot of like for their art, like, is also really healthy. Like, one super cool thing about Nashville, as opposed to when I'm playing in other cities sometimes, is that the bands really promote really well. They do, like, especially when you're playing a show, like, they're going to do everything they can to bring people out. They're going to play the best show they can because they really value it, and there's a lot on the line. And sometimes if you don't have those aspirations or that reason to like reach to that standard, like if I'm just playing a house party in a different city and it seems like the bands are maybe just kind of wanting to party, they might
Mhm.
show up late and play too long and, just kind of disrespect the whole thing. And that's only in certain cases. So, there is, I feel like for a good scene to function, you've got to have, obviously you do have to have people who really respect their art. It just doesn't, which doesn't necessarily mean they want to like take it to the pop level and like, get it to the highest potential, but just having a regard for the community as a caretaker, as a gardener. Um, it doesn't mean you have high aspirations, but it does mean that you respect what's going on and want, want to do your part to like make it healthy. So a good community hopefully has people of all types who are all ages and have all types of, and it's all inclusive, obviously, and that's people of any, you know, gender or race, but also in age, but also people who have all different priorities or responsibilities within the community, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, different roles.
Yeah. Have you this is a little off topic, but have you and Lack Honey been hanging out a lot and making some music and stuff and making TikToks?
Yeah, I mean, he's been living here for the past um month and a half now. So we've been he's amazing. He'll be like working on a new song like every day or two. He'll like he just like will make a track at night with one of the guys from his band and then just like the next morning get up and like write a whole like do a whole like verse and chorus and bridge and
Whoa.
write it and record it and be done and it's like noon and I've like gotten like some coffee and gone for a walk. And he's like, what are you doing today? And I'm like, shit. um
That's incredible.
it's pretty incredible.
Also,
So then
I was checking out his TikToks because he told me he like tries to make a lot of TikToks, like one a day or something was like some goal he had, and like, man, he pumps out really good content on there too. It's like really cool the stuff he's making.
yeah, it's awesome.
That's so cool.
Did you see the one that he made where he's like, yeah, this guy is always playing guitar on his roof. So I like finally hit him up and we made a song together. Did you see that?
No, dude, that's awesome.
You should, yeah, it's good. Yeah, but we finally like got to. We're always talking about making music together. We've done it in the past, but we hadn't actually made music together since he moved in until like this weekend, and got into a good flow. Kind of like I like just like making a song with like from scratch, like no expectations whatsoever on what it's going to be, whether it's going to be like an Arlie song or a Black Honey song or whatever. And like
Yeah,
it was cool. We just like found a flow and built this whole track in like 3 hours. And like I definitely want to do more of that, especially since when I can't see very many other humans and I have this incredible musician like right through the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I have noticed. I was actually thinking the other day, like when we have written together, or like when I've heard about other instances of you like collaborating with different people, it does seem like that when you are creating, especially with other people, it seems to have no, you're not really focused on like a goal or like purpose, like of like, oh, let's do this so that we can make this and release it. And it's more like just focusing on the creating aspect, and then whatever happens. You can assess that looking back when it's done or closer to being done, and deciding. Do you feel that way with like all music, or do you think it's just a separation of like the project Arlie with like anything collaborative is just more, since you have maybe more pressure with Arlie, that you can like in other instances just want to like create just to create and enjoy doing what you do?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Um, I would say when I like working with someone like you or with Ali or with like a lot of my favorite collaborations, it's like that where I will just like come out of it realizing like, oh yeah, I could totally be this free in my creative process with my own stuff. And it's like it can be very refreshing because I don't know, like I feel like working with other people, in order for it to go well, you have to release a bit of your like, ego controlling tendencies. And I realized that, after a collaboration that goes well, where I like sort of let go of my need to control everything and like make it exactly the way that I think it should be, and I'll like just, somebody else has a different direction or inspiration, and I like trust it without knowing where it's going, and I'll follow it, and it ends up being something cool, and then we bounce back and forth and whatever, and it's like I come through that and realize I can like carry that energy back into what I'm doing for Arlie or for like whatever I'm making. And in fact, the like, I don't know, a lot of times I find like the less of the like controlling ego tendency that I have even in my own stuff, like
Mm,
sometimes the better the flow ends up being, even solo. Um,
yeah.
so the
Right.
goal for me in life is to just like be in creative flow state as much as possible. Like that's like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like my life goal basically.
That's cool.
And
Yeah,
like
for sure.
collaborating with people can be like a good way to, I don't know, experience that in new ways, I guess.
Yeah. One thing that I would want to ask you specifically more than anyone else is that I think you have a really good, you're always, you seem to have a great way of like creating cohesive work. And sometimes I'll find that if I put too much of an expectation, or like of like this is what I'm creating, like this album or like this bigger concept, that now I'm going to create the things that fill it. Like if I build the shape, sometimes that chokes it because I can't get, because then there's like too much expectation or pressure when I should have just been like creating and then assessed later with what I created. But the inverse of that is that sometimes if I don't have that like goal or idea of like what I'm working towards, I can also feel um not as like inspired or inclined to create. So I feel like there is like for me like a personally like some sort of thing I haven't quite figured out, that like some sort of balance where I do kind of know what
Yeah.
I'm working towards, but it's malleable or something.
Yeah. This is something I've been thinking about a lot. Um, to have the goal without being attached to it, I guess. like, or you're saying, okay, you're asking about like cohesion and or about like an album as like a project with like a set of constraints, or
Yes, yeah, right, exactly. Like I don't know. It doesn't. Sometimes if I know, like, sometimes I'll have the name of an album and even the album cover before I have the songs written, and that doesn't mean I'm going to like even use that name in album type, but like having something that's like a greater like theme, or maybe it's a palette, like deciding I'm going to use certain instruments. Sometimes that can help me be creative, but then other times if I get too narrow, then it like totally chokes everything up. I can't even. It like ties a knot in like a water hose, and I can't. I'm like totally drained.
yeah, it's cool. Did you ever watch that documentary about the Flaming Lips making the Soft Bulletin?
No, I didn't. I'm not sure I knew that existed.
It's like a really cool example of this where it's like, because I've always felt like, yeah, like creative constraints are like how the creativity is possible, where like the stuff we've talked about where like you have an 8-track tape machine, um the choices you make are limited by that, and that's like how a lot of great records get made, because you can't just like constantly add a million layers. So you have to like, or whatever, even just like a 5-piece band is a creative constraint. And it's like, with the Soft Bulletin, they had just had their guitar player like actually died, and so they decided like we're gonna make a record with no guitar on it in his honor.
Wow, man.
And that was what got them going on. Like, I feel like a lot of people, I think like a lot of people were not using MIDI. Like it wasn't cool or rock and roll to like use MIDI, and they started to just like figure out new ways of using like MIDI strings, that not a lot of like uh, bands were doing, and they did that. What is it? Race for the Prize, that song. And it was like actually them like bending or like changing the tape speed to do that bend.
Whoa.
And it's like, yeah, like they never would have done that if they were making a record um, with guitar on it.
Right.
And then like they made a lot of really cool choices. Like, oh, Spoonful Weighs a Ton is such a beautiful song that they like
Yeah.
wouldn't have made without that constraint. I'm obsessed with that song, but then they ended up being like towards the end of the process, I guess, like they were like, okay, well, this has been like a really great constraint, but now we want to have some guitar, and that was okay. And
Yeah. Right.
like, um, and it still was just like this incredibly beautiful, like incredibly cohesive record. Um, Also, one of like the best. Oh, I think this is the one. It was like my favorite Pitchfork review that I've ever read. It's just like this guy talking about how he's like, and it's like one that they deleted off their official website, but you can find it online, where he's like, yeah, I was just like having a horrible week, and like I got fired from my job, and my girlfriend dumped me, and then I got home and like put on this record, and it was everything that I needed. That was like basically the Pitchfork review.
Wow. That's awesome. I
um,
remember reading some of those like crazy reviews back in the day. They really had some hot takes.
they really
Even
did.
bands Zeros, there was that one where like it was a monkey peeing into its own mouth.
Jet, yeah, that was great.
That's crazy. Wow. Well, I got to listen to more Soft Bulletin. I've listened to the Flaming Lips, but I don't know if and I've heard some of that album, but I have never like given it a full listen. And that's really interesting. I mean, that's exactly what I'm talking about. set this really hard boundary to be more creative, but then afterwards it was like once it was created, then they could like we're the only ones that set this standard for ourselves. And now if we're listening to it, we want to add some guitar. It's like, let's do it. Seems
Yeah.
like a really healthy way of accomplishing both sides of that, you know?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Like
And
setting a
like,
standard, but then also being willing to like let it go if at the end of the day, if you need to.
right. And the other thing for me that I've been thinking about related to this topic, which is like what you were first saying, is just um to be able to like have goals in mind, but then still be fully present. Because when you have a goal and then you're like too focused on like the goal, then you're just like not fully in the present, and then you're just not in the creative flow. But like with Ollie and me, like we could be just thinking, because this is super fresh, like because it was like on the goal was just, I guess, to just like make something. It was very not specific. It was just the constraint, I guess, was that we only had like a few hours and he was leaving town the next day. So that got us going. And then it's like, oh, honestly, dude, deadlines are like the perfect example of this concept. Like, for me, like ideal life is like someone gives me a deadline and it's like, you have to finish a song like fully produced like in 2 days. And then I get it and I work super hard and then it's like almost done. And then they're like, just kidding, one more day. And then I do it and then it's done. I just need someone
Wow.
to like, I just need someone to like tell me that deadlines are real and like lie
Yeah,
to me. And then they actually like have a tiny bit of flexibility like for the rest of my life.
that's really
And be like,
interesting. Yeah,
the
right.
album is shipping on this day. And then I like all of my best work comes out on like the 2 days right before the deadline. And I do nothing before that. And and then it's like, oh, this is really great, but it could be better. Just kidding. The album is not officially shipping on that day. You actually have 2 more days. And then
Wow.
done.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that totally makes sense. So that does sound really healthy. Maybe I need to give myself some deadlines. I've seen talking about that a lot recently with like needing to finish up this album and stuff. Having deadlines, how it can be really healthy. I think that's so true because right now I'm definitely in one of those spots where I'm just creating like forever. Like I have no deadline. I'm just in quarantine. So yeah,
I know, that's the thing. I wish we had like more of a deadline for this record. Like it would have been done months ago if we
yeah,
had someone like forcing us to get it done.
right. That's cool. Um, well, dude, we're at the end of our hour, and I don't want to hold you any longer.
Wow,
Yeah,
already an hour.
yeah, isn't that crazy?
Man, well, we'll have to do another one of these.
Yeah, we can anytime. It's great talking
Heck
to
yeah.
you. Thanks
You
for coming.
too,
Thanks for being a
Freeze.
part of the fun zone, dude. Thanks for being a part of episode 50, dude. You're the big 50.
Big
There's no one
five.
else I would have rather had on for this monumental occasion. So,
Wow. Thank you, Freeze. It has
of
been an
course.
honor.
Yeah,
I
man.
love you,
I love
Freeze.
you too. See you later.
Bye.